Hello and welcome to part 9, the penultimate edition. This is part 9 of the AGD tutorial, and in this one we're going to cover final tweaks, killing the player, completing the game, collision distance. But first we have 2 bug fixes to put in place which I've noticed before we move on to stop things breaking. The first is you may have noticed that the displaying lives didn't work the first time you lost a life. Now to fix that we need to go into the event editor and we need to go into the restart screen section, press space, and you need to put these lines of code in. All this does is that tells AGD that when it restarts the screen it sets the line and column and displays the lives. What that will do is, I'll just show you, what that will do is when you lose a life, you'll notice bottom left it says 3. When you lose a life it goes to 2. It wasn't doing that before, so that's now fixed. That's one bug fixed. The next problem we have, I can demonstrate it on this screen as well, is that the detection for the left screen, moving left, doesn't work. If you watch here, the player disappears from the left and appears in the right hand side. You can just about make him out here. That's because the detection for the edge of the screen to the left was a little bit out, so we need to go in and fix that. I haven't done that yet. So go into the event editor, press that, and this is the problem here. We need to reduce this, and I'm going to say 8 for that one. And subsequently we need to reduce that to 10. Okay, so that should stop that from happening. What I'm going to do just quickly is, I'm going to place my starting character here so that I don't have to keep testing. Set by pressing X to start on that screen. And now he doesn't disappear. Now the question is, can he still get back from the other screen? So I need to quickly go into the map, set the starting room as 1. Yes, he can. Right, so that's 2 bug fixes we've got in place, and we're now ready to start the final tweaks, which is killing the player, i.e. what happens when the game is over, completing the game, and the collision distance. So what we need to do is, from the main menu, we need to go into the text area by pressing T. We've already got a game over message, which is message 0, so we'll do that one first. We need to go into the events editor. We need to go into the kill player section. We need to put a check to see if the number of lives equals 1, which means that's his last life, which they've just lost. We then need to display a message, so we'll say let line equal, let's say 10, let column equal 15, we can change these, and we need to display message 0. What we also need to do here is to keep the message on screen. We need to add a little delay, let's say 250. Otherwise the message would flash up and the game would end and you wouldn't know what would happen. So let's see if that happens. Back in and test the game. 1 life, 2 lives, last life. Okay, it says game over. I need to move that to the center a little bit. That was the delay there. Okay. So I need to move it across, possibly to 10. Once, twice, 3 times. That's not so bad. It could be moved later. I could do with changing the colour of that, so we might as well do that quickly while we're in this section. I'm trying to think of a value that, I don't know, I'm just making values up. See what 84 looks like. It may look terrible because I haven't got my calculator, and no, that's not so bad. Red background on with green ink. Game over. There's the delay kicking in. You can extend that by changing this value here, the higher the value, the longer the delay for the game over. Okay, so that's killing the player. What about finishing the game? Okay, we need a trigger for finishing the game. We can keep a count of how many objects have been collected. We can keep a count of how many rooms have been visited by using the variables, or we can have the last object to be collected. If you construct the game cleverly, you'll know that by the time you get to a certain room, all the objects would have been collected, or you could have an end of game object, perhaps a golden chalice to collect or something like that. So we're going to create a new object by going into the object section, pressing O. We already have our 2 diamonds. I'm going to create a new object by pressing X and saying yes, and just so that we all know what this object does, to make it easier, I'm just going to put end like that. Using the Q and W, I'm going to place this at number 1, which is the second of our screens, and I'm going to place it down here. So what I want is when our player hits that, that will be the end of the game. So now I have to put in a check for that. So what I need to do is I just need to check it was object number 2. That's important. So go into the control of the player, find where we detect the object being collected here. Now we need to check in here to see if it's object number 2. Okay. So what we have is it's not going to be 255. If it's 2, then we're going to do something here. If it isn't, in other words, if it's one of the other 2 objects, it will collect them, play a sound, and add to the score. So what we're going to do, if it's that particular object, is we're going to end the game, because it's finished, and that's the object of the game, or the object of this game anyway. So we'll Control A and save that. What we now need to do is fill in this section here. This is what happens when the game is completed, and we need to complete the game, we need a message to display. So we need to go into the text section here by pressing T. We need to create a new message, pressing X, saying yes, and type in your message. Well done. Game completed. And press Control A to save, and that's message 3. There are a number of different ways to have end of game messages. The simplest way is to do what I'm doing here and create a text message. Other methods I've used in the past is to create a separate room and use the blocks as letters and spell out a special message, so you can have like a little picture there. It's up to you really. I'm just going the shortest route here. So what we need to do now, we've got our message, which I believe was message 3. Just check. Yep, game completed, message 3. We go into the events editor, we go into the game completed section, we select none, and we're going to display our message. Let line equal 10, column equal, I think it needs to be 8 or something. Change the colour, display the message, put in the delay 300, and that's all there is to it. So now I need to test that, so let's see what happens. Obviously using this method, you don't know if your player has collected all of the objects they can collect, but it just means that they've got to the end of the game. So avoid the little bouncing thing there. There you go. Oh, I think I need to put a longer delay on that because it was very quick. I forgot that the longest you can have is 250. So if you wanted a second delay in there, you could put another delay of 100. Okay. Ooh. Let's see if we can end this game properly. Might need to move the positioning of the text, but dodge the bouncing ball. well done, game completed. And the extra delay, I just need to go into the editor again. Change the colour slightly and move this to 5. And temporarily I'm just going to move the start position of our little man so it's easier to test. There we go, game completed. So there we have our fully playable game. Just for a bit of fun, I'm going to add another sprite to this. If you've followed the tutorials, you should know how to do this. I'm just going to add a second, add a little bit more challenging by adding a second one in there. I'm going to move our player back up to his starting position. By the way, when you're in this screen, you can move between screens by pressing N and P and move the sprites. I'm going to now put the sprites in their final place so I can play the game all the way through. Go into the map section, select 0, press X to select that as the starting room. So now this is our fully playable game. So this tutorial has gone from loading AGD all the way through creating rooms, creating sprites, creating sounds, putting them all together with messages and scoring, and this is our final game. We have a little man. That has to negotiate crazy flapping birds twice if he wants to get a high score, because we can collect that over the red deadly object, over the minecart, over the crazy flappy birds a second time, into the second screen. You'll notice that the second bouncing sprite is now working. That did it automatically because we've already put the code in there. It just takes over and does its own thing. And now to finish the game, I just need to avoid getting bounced on, get to the end, and congratulations, I've completed the game. And hopefully this tutorial you've gone through and you've got the same result. So now all you need to do is think of a new game and write it. You've got all the tools. Hopefully when this is finished I'll look at doing advanced sections where I'll cover things like specific sprite movements, ladders, conveyor belts, ropes, forced movements, random elements, shooting things and timers, etc, etc. But for now I think you've got enough to create your own game, and I look forward to seeing it. Thanks for watching.